It looked like somebody was bent over and had their head in the window of the deer blind. It either heard me or smelt me, and he pulled his head out of the tent and stood straight up, and that shocked me. They don't make people that big.
The way it moved, almost as if it was gliding across the beach. I've never seen anything move like that in my life. They were screaming at each other in gibberish. It sounded like a language, and they were chuntering away back and forwards, back and forwards, back and forwards. I know what a bear looks like, and there is no way on this planet that what I saw were bears.
911, what are you reporting?
Jesus Christ, you better...
Sure.
Zia!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh.
This is Cindy from Virginia, and you're listening to the one and only Sasquatch Chronicles.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. Got a great show planned for you tonight. We're going to be chatting with Cindy, who comes to us from Virginia. And most of the people who've listened to my show, they've heard this type of encounter over and over and over again. I think the people who are in this type of situation, they think their place is haunted, or they think they're going crazy. They have no idea what's going on. And it's very typical behavior that you've heard from many other eyewitnesses who've had these creatures on their property. And Cindy never thought that she would ever come across Sasquatch or ever have to deal with anything like this. And it's very fascinating. And Cindy's collected a lot of really cool evidence. I'll include pictures underneath this show. So if you go to SasquatchChronicles.com, you can check out some of the evidence that she collected. If you've had an encounter and you'd like to be on the show, shoot me an email. My email address is wes@SasquatchChronicles.com. And if you get a chance, definitely check out SasquatchChronicles.com. There's a blog every day, and you can become a member and get additional shows. Let's jump into it tonight. I want to welcome Cindy to the show. Cindy, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, no, the honor is mine. And I know you've been a listener of mine for a long time. And, you know, you've had some bizarre things happen on a property out there in Virginia. As you and I were talking, I was telling you, people always think their place is haunted. And that would throw me off. I'd be like, well, why do you think it's haunted? And then when you hear what they're talking about, their house being hit, running out, not seeing anything, rocks being thrown, just bizarre things. After a while, you can kind of see why someone would say, I think my place is haunted. If you would you take us back to the moment to where all of this started happening? Tell us a little bit about the property and what happened. What did you see?
Sure. Well, we moved into this house in 2000. We bought it in March, and we didn't actually move in until May. I was part of a touring show. And so we were on the road 9 or 10 months out of every year, and then also traveled some in our off time going overseas. So we were really hardly ever home. So I always used to joke with people and say our furniture lived in a really nice house, but you know, we were traveling all the time. So this property is in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. It's really lovely. It's surrounded by woods. It is a subdivision, but everyone has a large lot, 4 or 5, 6 acres, some of them. And it's just peaceful. We have a lake. It's just really lovely. And I had I grew up in a small town in Virginia, so I'd never really lived in the woods per se. So I was really, really looking forward to the peace and quiet, and the mountains, and it's just lovely here. So we had a lot of wildlife. We had deer and birds and squirrel and some fox and an occasional bear, and it was just, I loved all of that. I started to feed the birds and the squirrels on my balcony, which is right off my bedroom. And, it's kind of strange because I've always had this kind of, I don't know what to call it. I've always been able to connect with animals really, really well. And so I established a relationship with all kinds of little creatures around here. You have a chipmunk that comes up to the door, and I give him food, and I feed the flying squirrels at night, and I feed the squirrels during the day, and deer. Sometimes we'd have 30 or 40 deer that would sleep in our side yard. And at any point you could walk out there and they just, they would just look at you because they got so used to seeing us. So when I got off the road in 2015, that was really the first time that I had spent any time here at all. And my husband was still traveling, doing his job. And so I was here 98% of the time, by myself. So, but it didn't bother me. And it was just peaceful here.
Yeah, it sounds nice. I know eventually it doesn't become nice, but it sounds nice, with the deer, and I can picture it in my head. It sounds beautiful.
It is beautiful. And we really, really loved it here. I should go back and say that while we were touring, we were doing a show down in Lufkin, Texas. And this kind of leads into what I thought would never happen to me. But we were doing a show down in Lufkin, Texas, and my husband had been out doing some work at the Children's Hospital that day. And he was out with the city manager, and the guy said, "Oh, by the way, the Finding Bigfoot people are here." And he said, "You're kidding." He said, we watched that show. And he said, "Yeah, they're having a town hall tonight. They had come over to the theater where you guys were performing to see if it was going to be okay for the town hall, but we were already there and set up, so it wasn't going to work." But anyway, he said, "Here's the producer's phone number." He said, "I think they're all full for the town hall, but you can call him and you see if you can get in." So he called, and they said, "Sure, come on over. We know you're in town. We came by the theater this morning." And so we went to the town hall. And I have to tell you, I was really kind of touched by the stories, the personal stories that people told in the town hall. I didn't really have an opinion about Bigfoot. I was interested in it. Like everybody else, I saw the In Search Of, when I was a kid, and I just thought that was really fascinating. But listening to all these people tell their personal encounters was just amazing, and I thought, they're so sincere. I talked to a lot of them afterwards. I don't know. I just found it to be very interesting. Like, maybe this is really something, And so, after that, we went on our way and kind of forgot about it all. And then, so anyway, back to where I've retired now off the show, and I'm at home and just enjoying my house. And that was we retired in 2015. We were still gone quite a bit doing other things. So really kind of 2016 is when I spent the most time at home that year. Strange things started happening. The first thing I noticed was kind of weird noises at night. Like I said, I have this connection with animals. It's kind of weird. My friends call me Snow White because it's kind of weird, But anyway, I would sit out on the deck at night, and I'm out there by myself, and I would hear this noise, and I thought it was, some kind of weird bird or something. So it would make a noise, and then I would make the noise back, and then it would make the noise back at me. And this would go on for, a long time. And I thought, that's really weird. I don't know what that is. I think it's some sort of, strange bird. And so, that happened for a while. Nothing crazy at first. And then things got strange, really strange. Like, in my bedroom, like I said, I have a balcony off that faces the back of the woods. And I have a door there, like a storm doors that I can roll down the screen. So I would do that every night because I wanted to hear the frogs croaking and the owls and just all that great stuff that you have in the woods that's just so amazing to listen to. And so one night I'm asleep. It's about, I don't know, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I hear this. The only way I can describe it is like a tank coming through the woods. Right. And my woods are, I don't know, we're probably 15 feet off of the back of the house. I mean, that's where they start. So it's right there. And so I hear this noise and the trees are cracking and all this craziness. And it just comes right up to underneath the balcony. And so I jump out of the bed and I don't have a flashlight. And I'm like, what the heck was that? And so I go out there and I don't see anything. I finally find a flashlight. I look around. I don't see anything. Nothing. And so I thought, well, that's really strange. But still, it wasn't giving me any, weirdness. I just thought, well, maybe it's probably a deer or a buck or something. And it's okay. It'll be fine. So, that was the first thing that kind of happened. And then this balcony that's off my bedroom is, it's about 14 feet in the air. The property slopes down in the back and the woods are there, but it's pretty high off the ground. And one night, something hit that balcony so hard, it shook my entire bedroom. And it was in the middle of the night, 2, 3 in the morning. I flew up out of the bed. I thought somebody was messing with me, This time I had a flashlight. So I go out there and I'm looking around. I don't see anything. I see nothing. There's nothing out there. I've got my military flashlight, and I'm scouring the woods and I don't see anything. So that continued over and over and over. And it was strange because it was always at the same time, basically the same time of night, between midnight and 3 a.m. is when most of the activity happened. And then I have typically I'm on the second floor of the bedroom and there's a garage to the left of the bedroom. Somebody, I thought, was hitting the garage door. So they're hitting me in the back and they're also hitting me on the side. And it was starting to really mess with me. I wasn't getting good sleep because, they kept waking me up in the night. And I thought, I'm going to catch this person. I'm going to catch whoever's doing this because it was starting to make me mad. And then strange sounds in the woods. One night I'm sitting there and I hear this creepy laughing in the woods. I thought, who in their right mind would be around here? First of all, this is Virginia. You'll get shot, around somebody's house.
Yeah.
They won't think twice about it. So, I would hear this crazy laughing and then whistling and then knocking. And I started to really wonder what the heck was going on. So I started to look around on the internet because I could not figure out, I couldn't see anybody and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And that's when I found you. And I started to listen, and I listened a long time before I ever joined. And I joined as a member in 2017. That's where I kind of started to think, this is really unbelievable what's going on. And maybe this is what it is. So weirdness continued. I had a little dog who was older at the time. this was probably at the end of, I don't know, 2017 maybe. And I had to take him out sometimes 2 or 3 times in the middle of the night. And I took him out one night about 3 a.m. As soon as I stepped out on the front door, front porch, right off to my left on the other, or off to the right, excuse me, on the other side of the driveway, I heard this whap, really loud. Now it's, in the middle of the night. Who's going to be over there?
Like hitting a tree? Is that what you're describing?
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounded like. It sounded like somebody hit a tree with a baseball bat. And so I thought, well, that's weird. It happened, I can't tell you how many times, multiple times when I would come out at night. And there seemed to be like this little focus of activity right over on that side. Because it would happen as soon as I would step out, something would happen. Just one knock, but it would happen over and over again. And so anyway, one night I took the dog out just like normal. And we're standing in the yard because we have coyotes around here. So I don't let him out by himself. He's on a leash. And I hear from the woods across the street, I hear this god awful scream. It scared me so badly. It started really low, like the Bobo howl, it's really low, but it went up to this crazy high pitch scream. And I grabbed the dog mid pee and I ran in the house. My heart was pounding. I thought, what was that? What was that? I mean, it was horrifying. And so I came back into the bedroom and I went out on the balcony to see if I could still hear it. And it was quiet, but everything was quiet. I mean, the woods had gone quiet. And I thought, okay, that's horrible. I've heard you say that some of these screams sound like the gates of hell have opened. That would accurately describe this.
And can I ask you, Cindy, I don't mean to cut you off, but did you get the feeling like it was directed at you?
I don't know. I really don't know. Possibly. I mean, it happened as soon as I got into the yard. So maybe, and I've heard, I wrote down a couple of episodes where, it sounded similar, not exactly, but it sounds similar to what, was on some of your episodes. One of them was, episode 460 and one was episode 463. And I think you called one of them the Umatilla scream.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's also laughing on that one. And that's exactly what it sounded like in the woods. And then one was, I have Michigan screams written down here, so I don't know if that was it. But those 2 episodes, when I heard those screams, it made my skin crawl. I mean, it was just, it just brought me back to all of that. It was just horrible. So the next day I went over to my neighbor's house, which I heard it in their woods. I don't know if it was in the side woods there or in the back. Everybody has woods around here. It's crazy. But so I went over and I asked them if they had heard that scream, because I don't know how anybody over there didn't hear that scream. And she was like, no, we didn't hear it. She said, but something weird happened the other night. They were sitting out on their deck, and their deck comes, I mean, literally the woods are a foot off their deck. I mean, it's just surrounded by woods. She said, we were sitting out on the deck having a glass of wine, and something growled at them. A deep guttural growl. And she was like, well, I didn't know what that was. So she got up and walked over on the deck now, where she thought she heard it come from. And she saw eyes in the woods. And they were like, okay, it's time to go in now. And so she told me that. She said, I don't know I don't know what that was. But she was telling me that she has to take her garbage out, down this long road on garbage day. And she said, she has to walk by those woods. And she said, I always feel like somebody's watching me. And I know that feeling because I've felt that too. You just walk outside at night, especially in the front there. And I always feel like that somebody's looking at me. And it's just a awfully creepy feeling. But so she said, well, what do you think it was? And I hesitated for a minute. And then I said, well, I think it could be a Sasquatch. And they laughed at me. I've known these people practically all my life, and they laughed at me. And then, I mean, I don't know, when you get laughed at like that, you're very hesitant to share, with anybody else really and there'd been so much going on at that point that I really hadn't told anybody because, it's so weird, that when you tell someone they think you're crazy, so I just hadn't really said a whole lot. So one night, this was kind of interesting. The hitting of the balcony and everything had continued. And I was so tired of dealing with it and not being able to sleep at night and waiting for something to happen. And so I say they, because I'm assuming that's what it was. They hit the balcony again. And I lost it. I had talked to a friend of mine that I trusted, and he had said to me, look, next time it happens, just go out there and tell them to stop. And I thought, that's crazy, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So when they hit the balcony that night, and again, like I'm saying, the balcony is 14 feet off the ground. I don't think a person could do that at all. But anyway, they hit the balcony, shook the whole room, practically knocked me out of the bed. It's just crazy. So I ran out there, and I was going to be all firm and everything. And I was firm, but emotion got me. And I was yelling at them, but I was also crying at the same time. And I just told them, I said, look, you've got to stop doing this. You're scaring me. And please stop it. And it never happened again.
Isn't that bizarre? And I don't want to cut your story off, but don't you find that strange, Cindy? I know you're a member, and you heard the show I did with, I can't remember the gentleman's name. They were hiking in Idaho, and his friend got hit with a rock. They were being tormented night after night, and his friend got out of the tent and started yelling at them to stop, that they were scaring them and that they were trying to leave as quickly as possible, and it stopped. And hearing you say that, it seems bizarre for an animal to recognize that you are terrified and that they actually do what you say. It's weird, isn't it?
It's very weird. And it actually really surprised me. I mean, for 2 months, nothing happened. Nothing. And then this is bizarre. And then I started to hear the people behind me, down in the woods behind me, I started hearing them shooting in the middle of the night. Same time, between 12 and 3. And I thought, oh my gosh, I wonder if they went down there and they're now bothering them. Because, and somebody said, oh, they're probably just doing target practice. Well, people don't do target practice at 3 a.m. in a neighborhood. No. They just don't. No. So I think something was going on down there for sure. And that went on for a while. But, I mean, they left me alone for a long time after that. So anyway, that's how they eventually picked back up. I'll say that. But at that point, I finally got to, get some sleep, and I wasn't on edge all the time. And And it was better, but I don't think it was better for my neighbors. I think they got the brunt of, of them. So anyway, one night I went outside and I was out with my dog again, and my husband was here this time. And I was hearing this owl, and it was really loud. I mean, crazy loud. It was right in the tree above me. Now I've learned when I go outside, I need to have a flashlight. I take my phone. I'm trying to be prepared to, to catch something or someone, or still, I'm I'm just on edge about the whole thing. So I've got my phone and everything, and I hear this owl that's in the tree, and it's loud, loud, loud. So I've got the flashlight and I'm looking around, and then on the other side of the driveway again, where I always get these tree knocks when I come outside, I hear this owl, quote unquote, and it's answering the first owl, but its voice cracks. It kind of messed up. And I thought, oh, that's not an owl. So I thought, okay, so I sent the dog to my husband, and I walked over there. Now I walked over to the edge of the driveway, and the car is there, and then there's the wood line. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to hold my phone right up against my shoulder, not like I'm not going to hold it out in front of me, but I'm just going to take some pictures. And it's pitch dark out there, but I thought, well, maybe I'll see something. So I did. I just, hit it 3 or 4 times, like the burst. And then I went in the house. And when I got in here and I started looking, I lightened everything up, and something was standing there. And I thought I could see something like an outline, but I wasn't completely sure, but there it was. It was standing there, and it was kind of boxy shaped. In the picture, I could see its face and its hands and its eyes. And I sent you that picture. It's a weird looking thing. It was probably about 6 feet tall, I would think, and boxy looking and just weird, strange looking.
I looked at that picture you sent me, and
Isn't that weird?
There's definitely something standing there. I don't know, because I wasn't there when you took the picture. It looked bigger than 6 feet to me, but it's definitely standing there looking right at you as you snap that picture. That's creepy. Yeah. That's real creepy.
I know it's creepy. It is. And I just, Wes, I just knew it was there. I just knew it was. And so I just kind of casually walked over there, and I just aimed where I thought it was, and I just took the picture, and that's what I got. And it's always that area it's funny because like I told you, before, in that area on the side there is where the deer used to sleep. We used to have 30 or 40 deer over there. There's kind of a trail through there where they would walk, and they would all sleep over there. And over the years, our deer population has there's only, where we used to have that many, there's only maybe 7 or 8 that are around now. They're just gone. I mean, they're not over there anymore. They don't even go over there anymore. And I think it's because these things are over there in the side. So, yeah. But anyway, so the next morning after I took this picture, I walked outside, and this is what I was telling you on the phone the other day. I noticed that we had put up in one of those, I can't even think of what it's called, the emergency light kind of thing. So if somebody comes in that area, we did that all around the house. Because
like spotlights, motion detectors.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. We had done that all around the house because I was so freaked out about everything that was happening. We put them everywhere, and so I had it's right on the garage there. And then, like I said, on the other side of the driveway is where all this activity was happening. And so when I went out the next morning after I took that picture, I noticed that there was lined up there on the side of the driveway, about 5 feet off the driveway, were deadfall trees lined all the way down the side. And so I walked over there and I thought, that's really odd. And then I realized, I wonder if this is some sort of line where if they go over this line, they're going to hit the light's going to come on. So that night I checked it out. I tested it. I went over there and just as soon as I stepped over that line, the light came on. So they had set up this little barrier for themselves so they could watch and do whatever they're doing over there, so they wouldn't trigger the security light. So I just thought, wow, that's really smart. I mean,
it's like beyond an animal. I was telling you, the guys from the siege of, and I always say it wrong, Honabia, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
They told me the same thing. He thought it was the most bizarre thing. Once they set up the lights with the motion detectors, he would find these weird rock stacks, these weird branches, and they were in an area to where if you stepped over it, that light would kick on. It's bizarre because it's more than an animal thinking. I'm not even sure too many humans would come up with that. You know what I mean?
No, it's creepy. I mean, it kind of really hit me hard too, because I thought, oh, geez, they're smart. They've built this little thing now for them so they can sit over here and watch when we come outside or the dog or whatever. And they won't trigger the light because they know where the barrier is. They know where the boundary is. It was creepy. It was really creepy. So the next thing that happened, if you want me to move on here, after that, we got a new puppy. And he, after having an old dog, a new puppy is very different. My other dog couldn't hear that well. But a puppy can hear everything. So one night he came and got me. And he was just in a panic. He was crying and he wanted me to go with him. So I went to the other side of the house, and that's the side that the side was the garage and everything is on. And he took me to the deck door, and the deck runs all the way across the back and then across that side yard as well. There's a walkway there. So I went out on the deck and I walked to the very edge, and I'm leaning there, and something huffed, growled at me. And it was so loud that I could feel it. But it also, I don't know, it was just a weird feeling came over me. I was just like, oh, Lord. And I thought it should have been right in front of me. It should have been right in front of me. But I couldn't see anything. I had my flashlight and I'm scouring around. I couldn't see anything. I thought, why can't I see it? And then off to my left, we have it's all the woods, big tall trees, and a branch snaps off in the very top of one of the trees and falls down to the ground. I stand there for a second because I'm so stunned. And then all I could think of was you talking, saying, never turn your back on these things. So I looked down. My dog is already gone. He didn't even bark. He just went back in the house. And so then I'm like, I raised both my hands in the air and I said, okay, I'm going back in the house now. And I backed into the house, shut the door, and then I freaked out. It was crazy. I felt kind of nauseous, and I'm sure it was just a pure adrenaline rush from that happening. But oh man, it messed me up.
I bet. Yeah. When you hear the growl, it definitely shakes you up. I don't care who you are. I don't care how big and bad you are. You hear that growl, it'll shake you. So obviously, it must have been up in the tree. That's why you didn't see it, I'm assuming.
I think there was one on the ground and one in the tree. After that, it was about 3 weeks probably after all that happened. I'm outside with the dog, the puppy, in the day, and all of a sudden he just takes off through the woods on that side. And so he just took off. So I was like, oh, gee, here we go. So I took off after him. I found him and we came back. And the way I went, the way he took off in kind of like the upper side of the yard. But when I came back with him, I was carrying him and I came through kind of the lower part near the back side of the house. And I walked into an area right on the side of the house. And if you go up that side, it's where you hit the driveway and where I took that picture and the boundary line was and everything, where I always hear the tree knocks. But I walked into this area of footprints, lots of footprints, 4 different sizes of footprints. And I don't know, some of them looked like they had been there for a while. Some of them looked like they were, a little fresher. Some of them were like 2 inches deep. There was a really little one. There was a long, skinny one. There was a boxy looking one, like you always say, the Fred Flintstone kind of foot. And I mean, there were just all these different sizes of footprints. And so I'm like, this is unbelievable. I mean, I could even see where the toes would pull up and you get a little ridge, like you squeeze your toes in the mud and you get this little ridge there. I mean, it was unbelievable. And I thought, I've got to figure out a way to, I put powder in some of them and took pictures, because I thought, it was really hard to see them on camera. So I put powder in them and took some pictures of them. I measured them. I had one that, and I sent you pictures of it, where the big toe was off to the side. That one really struck me. But they were some of them were 17 inches long and about 9 inches wide. Some of them were 13 inches long, about 8 inches wide. The little one I never got to, because I thought, oh my gosh, I need to go get some plaster of Paris and I need to cast these. And I'd never done that before, but I thought I'm gonna give it a whirl anyway. So I went to Walmart. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I saw somebody give a demonstration one time on how to do it. So I thought, well, I'll give it a whirl. So I went and got a box of plaster of Paris, and I didn't realize how much I would use or need or anything. And I didn't have enough. So I didn't get to cast the little one, but I went for the kind of bigger ones. And so I only got like 3 casts out of, all of that. But I took pictures of it. And there was one kind of a trackway where I saw like 3 different, looked like the same print. It must have been running because there were 63 inches between them.
Yeah, I've looked at it, and is it okay if I post the pictures?
Yeah.
Because you did get some pretty good evidence. I mean, for never using plaster Paris, I mean, you did a pretty good job on these prints. And the one especially that has a skinnier heel, I don't know if it was kind of walking uphill or not. I've seen prints like that. And that's, I mean, what a find. I mean, you found several different sizes, and it's pretty good evidence. I mean, a lot of it, most people in the situation, Cindy, you've heard the show for a long time. They're not looking to prove they want these things just to go away. And I'm always like, no, go out there and see, collect something. Yeah. And you collected a lot of great evidence on here. So you did a great job with the plaster Paris for never using it.
Well, I wanted to, keep it. I wanted to have something, just to prove that I really saw it. And then, so it wasn't long after that we were having some work done in the yard, and I had taken one of those big prints and I put a tub over it and put a brick on top of it, and I kind of pushed it down into the ground all around it, so hopefully no water would get up under there. At least that was my thinking. And so when he came, the whole crew, but I know the guy that owns the company really well, and he so I kind of took him to the side and I said, "Can I show you something?" And he said, "Sure." So I walked him over to the side woods and I pulled the tub off of it, and he went, "Oh my God, is that a footprint?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "It's huge." Yeah, yes, it's huge. And he said, "Well, who would be walking over here?" Well, first of all, who has feet that big? But who would be walking over here? I mean, it's gnarly over there. I mean, we have snakes and everything else in the woods. I would never walk barefooted through there. You could never do it. It would really, it wouldn't be good. But he said, "What is that?" And I said, "Well, what do you think it is?" And he goes, "Well, it looks like a Bigfoot print." I said, "It does, doesn't it?" And he's like, so in the meantime, all the other guys had come over, and one guy walked up and he looked at it and he was, "Oh my gosh, it's Bigfoot." And he told me a story after everybody else, kind of walked away. He said, "I have a client that lives on the other side of town." He said, she's an older lady. And he said, "I was over there a couple of weeks ago." And she said, "I think that my neighbors are crazy." And he said, "Well, why do you think your neighbors are crazy?" And she said, "Well, because they keep telling me to be careful when I go out in the backyard at night. Their yards are surrounded by woods in the back." And she said, "Because they say they have a Bigfoot that's in their woods and comes into their yard, and that they have pictures of it." And they brought the pictures and video and everything over and showed her. And she said, "I just think they're faking that. I just think they're crazy." And he was like, yeah. And he was like, "I'm telling you," he said, he lives back behind me and up on one of the mountains back there. And so he said, "I'm very familiar with weird noises in the woods." He said, "We hear some weird stuff too." And he said, "Honestly, it's so vast back there. There could be anything living out there. There's just so much, there's plenty of deer, there's plenty of water, anything could be back there." And so, yeah, so I shared with him a couple things about what had happened here, and he was like, "Gee, you got to be really careful." I said, "I know, I know," but he was really open to it. And he said, I don't disbelieve it." He said, "I think anything is possible." So at least he didn't laugh at me that time. But
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah,
So
it makes you wonder if it's the same group or if it's a separate group,
I don't know.
Yeah.
They have scared me, but I've never felt like threatened. It always seems like, I was telling you on the phone the other day, it almost seems like juvenile behavior, like, "Hey, let's go up and knock on the balcony and see if she comes out," that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It always seems like they're just messing with me, And then the one of the other last things that happened that really shook me up. I have, as I mentioned earlier, I have out on my balcony, I have my bird feeder, and I feed flying squirrels at night. And they're so used to me that I can come out there and they'll just come right down. And I have amazing pictures of them because they're so used to me now that they just, they'll come around. A few summers ago, they had babies, and this story I'm getting ready to tell, they had just had babies then. But a few summers ago, they had babies, and the babies can't get up to the feeder. So I just put some seed in my hand, and I put my hand out there, and they came right up and ate right out of my hand. I mean, it was an amazing experience. It was so cool. So they had just had babies again, and I was trying to get some pictures and video for my husband because I had a kind of a bowl down below, it's actually a planter, but I filled with dirt, and then I put the seed on top of it so they can easily get to it. And they were jumping back and forth in the bowl, the babies were. And so I was trying to get some video or pictures for my husband so he could see them. So it's dark out there. And I step out there, and they had gone up to the there's a window right up above the balcony. It's it's the upstairs bathroom. And they were they'll sit on the windowsill till I put more seed in or whatever I'm doing. So they had gone up there. So I was out there on the balcony and I was trying to figure out how I could bounce some light somewhere to fill in a little bit so I could get a picture or a video of these babies. And so I'm standing out there and I've got my hand and my phone on the inside of the glass door. And I've got the flashlight and I'm just trying to figure out where I could put the flashlight that would just bounce down on the ground, but it would give me enough fill to take the picture. And when I moved the flashlight down, there were two things sitting down there on the ground watching me. It's only about, I don't know, maybe 12, 15 feet from the balcony. Now the balcony's in the air, which that made me feel a little better. But there were two of them down there. And when I hit them with the light, you know, they flew up and I flew up but I had my phone was on, my picture, you know, my camera was on. So I guess I just had my hand on the button and I took pictures and I didn't even really know I was doing that. Yeah, I didn't, it just happened. It just happened that way. And there were two of them down there. One was just off to the side. I hit one of them square. It was kind of turned to the side a little bit. And then it turned around. So it turned its back to me. The other one I could see off to the side. I could just see this crazy hair everywhere. I mean, and from the picture, you know, I could see what looked like an arm. It was wide across the shoulders, came down to a V, and then, but these big, arms off to the side. It was on all fours. And I could see what looked like a hand. And it kind of a small conical head, you know, but it had its butt to me, had its back to me. So thank God I didn't see it in the face. I don't think I would have done very well if I had seen its face, but it took off and I took off and then I realized when I got back in here and I started looking that I had pictures of it. So that kind of, I don't know, I guess it just kind of made it worse because I actually knew something was out there and I had proof, you know what I mean? It just kind of, it really scared me, but they didn't hurt me or, you know, do anything. I think they were just watching what I was doing. They were wondering, what the heck is she doing out on the balcony, you know? And so, and they may have been watching the flying squirrels too, you know, I don't know, but there were two of them out there so I went out there the next morning once I calmed myself down, and there weren't really any footprints. There was the ground here is, you know, Virginia red clay, and it's hard, you know, very hard at times. And it was pretty packed down back there, but I could see where the ground was torn up, where where they both just barreled out of there.
Yeah,
so
it's kind of terrifying, you know. It's almost like having a stalker, you know, stalking you constantly. And I don't care what anyone says, that would make me uncomfortable, you know, knowing two things were watching you, and we really don't know what these two things are, but they seem to be focused on you. But I didn't mean to cut off the next event that happened.
Well, you know, and that's what I thought too, you know, early on, one of our neighbors on the next street over, it's the next street over, but it's still a very woodsy area. She came walking through the neighborhood one night. I had never met her before, but my husband and I were in the yard, and she saw us and she came walking over and she goes, "This is going to sound like a very strange question." And I thought, I don't know, try me. I've had some pretty strange things. And she said, "Do you ever hear weird screaming at night?" And I said, and my husband and I looked at each other and I said, yes, I hear a lot. And she said, what is that? And I said, I'm not sure. I didn't want to bring up anything else. The first time I said anything, I got laughed at. So I didn't really want to bring anything else up.
Yeah.
But I said, I don't really know what that is. She said, it sounds like somebody's murdering a woman. I said, I know. It's weird. It's very weird. She goes, it's unnerving. I said, I know it is. I said, it bothers me too. I said, I told her, I said, just be careful if you go out at night and things, because, we don't know what's out there. So I kind of left it at that. And I've always wanted to go down to my neighbors behind me and ask them what they're shooting at night. But to be honest, once somebody laughs at you like that and kind of ridicules you, you kind of don't want to, pursue it with people because they just, think you're crazy or something.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I haven't done that. And maybe I should before I leave. We just sold our house, so I'm moving on. It's funny, when we were looking at houses in Arkansas, we found these really great properties with all these woods around them and everything. And I was like, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. I think, I want to get somewhere away from the woods. I don't really want to go through this again. And like I said, they didn't hurt me. And, you said to me the other day, if they would wanted to hurt you, they could have. It's still been very unnerving for me. And I'm, again, one thing I forgot to mention is when the landscaper guy was here and I showed him those footprints, he said, you should call somebody. And I said, no, I don't really want to do that, because I've heard so many stories of people showing up and, they're all this, I just didn't want to get into that. And honestly, this is going to sound very weird, but I didn't want anybody to hurt them. Does that sound weird to you?
No, I don't think it sounds weird. I think, you're a decent person, and that's how decent people think. I always say I'm all for killing when a lot of people don't like me hearing me say that, but it's the way I feel. The only time I'm against that is when it's on someone's property. I'll be first to say, don't shoot them, don't hurt them, don't. It goes south really quick. You start messing with them on your property. These Bigfoot researchers, they'll come out, do what they do, piss them off. Well, they get to go home. You're at home. You don't have anywhere to go. So now you're left to deal with whatever they do. So I don't blame you. I know that's not what your thought process was, but you have a love for animals. You're a decent person. It doesn't shock me one bit you would say that.
Yeah, I just didn't want anybody coming here to try to hurt them or, whatever they are. And I don't know what they are. Clearly they're intelligent. They're, they're, and I've heard some strange stories on your show. And so I've never had that happen to me, but I've sure had enough to know that they're very intelligent. And in my case, they seemed to be focused on me. When my husband was home, nothing happened ever. Except, well, I can't say during COVID, he was home for months. And one night they didn't hit the balcony ever again after I went out there and yelled and cried. But they did one night. We're sitting here and in the bedroom and something hit the other end of the house. And he looked at me and he goes, "What was that?" And I said, "Well, that's what I've been telling you about." And he was like, "Holy cow." Cause it was substantial. It was a really substantial, hit. And I think, he started to realize that, ooh, this really happened, I know it's bizarre sounding. It's really bizarre. I mean, I hear myself talking about this, to you. And I think, man, I don't I don't know if I would believe this if I heard somebody else say it. But, I've heard other people say it on your show, and it's so I know I'm in good company.
Yeah, it goes on. I mean, there's no doubt that it goes on. Everything you've said, I've heard a million times from people who have these things on their property, especially with your husband. When he's gone, it picks up. And when he comes back, it slows down. You hear that a lot from people. And these things do tend to focus in on one person. Generally, when, like you've heard the show so many times, when people have kids, who's the first person to see it? It's always the kids.
Yes, always
the kids. And then it's a wife, and then eventually the husband sees it. But it's because they're focused in on one individual. Did you notice that the activity was year round, or was there ever a time beyond you yelling at them? I mean, did they just not seem to do anything for months at a time, or was it pretty consistent?
Was not. Yeah, it was not year round. It would pick up around May and then end around October. Every year. It was about the same. It was, I don't know. I don't think they lived here, but I think they would come here and hunt. And it was odd because sometimes when I would hear the coyotes is when I could almost expect activity. I don't know why that was. And then I stopped hearing coyotes altogether and the activity continued. One night I heard there was a whole pack of them back there, and they would just go off in the middle of the night, and man, it was loud. And then one night it sounded like one of them got murdered and it was screaming and very different from what I was normally hearing. And then it just stopped altogether. No more coyotes. It was weird.
Yeah, I know on the Browns property, you've heard me talk about here in Washington State, you'd always hear the coyotes go off. And somewhere in the middle of the coyotes going off, you'd hear something else. And that wasn't a coyote. Or you would hear something go off, and then the coyotes would react to it. That is bizarre. It makes me wonder if they kill off these coyotes, if they eat them.
That's what it sounded like to me. I mean, after that one, I heard it for a while and I'd hear activity. But after that happened, I never heard the coyotes again. I mean, they haven't been here. We heard them for the first time the other night in about 2 years. So they're obviously they're coming back around now, but they just went away. I mean, just gone. It was very odd. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe you. And I think you handled this whole situation probably better than most, probably better than I would. I probably would have lost it a few times and went out there and started firing off rounds, because I'd be your neighbors popping off shots. You're right. People don't target practice. And as a general rule, you don't fire off your firearm at night because you don't know where that bullet's going to end up. Generally, that's fear when you start hearing someone popping off shots in the middle of the night. It's absolute fear.
That's what I thought too, and it happened a lot. I mean, I started to keep a log, everything started happening so often, I started to keep a log of when I would hear knocks and when I would hear noises and sometimes like I'm looking at one of it here and it was like at 1:52 a.m. and then 2:16 a.m. and then 3:15 a.m. One night that was that night in particular. I kept hearing all night long stuff going on. And then when I got up to look, the security light was on downstairs and we had patio furniture down there, and there was a deer up on the sofa right next to the house, shaking. It was just quivering. And I thought, oh my gosh, I wonder if something was after it and it just, thought I'll just run up here on the porch where this light is and I'll just stay up here. But it was so weird. But I started to keep a log because it was just so much weirdness. I mean, it was so often. I mean, every night I would just think, oh my gosh, I wonder if something's going to happen tonight,
Yeah, you start to feel like a prisoner in your own home. and that's no way to live. I realize they didn't hurt you, and I told you the other night, I think if they wanted to hurt you, they would have done it a long time ago. That behavior, though, I think you and I are in agreement. I think it's more or less like, oh, let's see if she'll come out. Let's hit the side of the house. It's a way of drawing you out, which makes me nervous in a little bit because those are ambush tactics. The footprints, though, don't look like juveniles. Those look like some pretty big creatures on your property.
Yeah, I think there were, it seemed, I don't know. It seems to me that there were several different sizes of them around here at any given time. I think the two things that I saw out back here, I think those were juveniles. They weren't 8 feet tall and all that, but they were bulky. I couldn't tell you really. It happened so fast and it scared me so badly. And I think I scared them too. While I saw them, I don't think I registered much about them. And if it hadn't been for the fact that I got that picture, but I did notice that they were wide across the shoulders, and but I don't think they were. I think they were younger ones. I really do. And I have to tell you, I had Daniel Benoit and Dave Thundercloud came out and spent the night out here in my woods. This was probably, I don't know, 2017 maybe. And we had some activity. And Dave Thundercloud and I were walking through the woods back there, and he said to me, he goes, "Look over there," and there was this big tree, like dead tree laying there, and something was peeking at us behind the tree. It would lift up its head, and then it would pull down real fast, So we just kind of stood there, and I said, "It's okay. We're not going to hurt you," or whatever. But it was definitely, and it was kind of freaking me out a little bit, but it had blue eyes. I mean, its eyes were registering blue. I don't know. I don't know, but
yeah, I've heard that before. Yeah,
but it was bobbing up and down like, and I started to get scared, and I was like, I'm going to go back up on the deck. And so he stayed out there. And so as I left, he said that he saw it get up and run, and it was a juvenile. So I'm really glad that I wasn't out there on the ground when that happened, because that would have scared me. So
yeah, that would have scared me too. It's I want to ask you now, did you guys have this home built, or did someone live there before?
Yeah, someone lived here before, and then like I said, we bought it in 2000. But I don't know if they had ever had anything, happen here. It's interesting because, and I don't want to say where I ran into this person, but this person that I know is a former special operator, former FBI agent.
Yeah.
And I confided in him, and I sent him my pictures, and I told him what was going on. And I said, I don't know what they are. I said, I don't know if they're demonic. I don't know. But I know that there's something different about them. They're not just a regular animal. They're intelligent. They think, they strategize. There's more to them. And all he would say, he just sent me a message back, and he said, "You're spot on." And that's all he would say. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And I forgot to tell you that.
It is interesting that he would say that, that he would be in agreement. It is interesting. It's fascinating. It makes me wonder what he knows. Now, are you moving to kind of get away from that area? I mean, I realize you've probably had enough at this point, or is it a different reason? And you don't have to go into the reason, but I'm just curious.
It's all kinds of reasons. But to be honest with you, I'm just, yeah, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I mean, I think for the most part, I have dealt with it okay. And I want to thank you, because listening to your show and listening to, your advice and everything probably saved my life, because so much had happened to me that I did not understand. And when I found Sasquatch Chronicles, I started to know how to react and what not to do. So I think because I was educated from your show, that I handled it probably the best I could. And I want to thank you for doing that, and for your show, and for allowing people like me to have a forum, because you get laughed at, you get ridiculed, and this is a safe place where you can come and you can tell everybody what happened to you, and it's okay. And so I want to thank you for all of that, because I'm not sure what would have happened had I not known what to do.
I appreciate you saying that. You don't have to say that. It is fascinating to listen to different eyewitnesses and for people to come forward, because I've learned more from eyewitnesses than you'd ever learn anywhere else. You learn about their behavior, their appearances, and just different things people say that seem to work in situations, like you getting up and yelling at them, or the gentleman I had on a couple weeks ago, he did the same thing, and I thought, that's never going to work. And then the guy's like, yeah, it stopped right after he did that. And I thought, that's bizarre. And you said that, and I was like, wow. But that isn't the only time I've ever heard someone say that, where they get up, start yelling at these things, and they almost try and reason with them. And it's weird. It seems like it works, almost like you're talking to a human being that is open to listening to you. It's a really weird, you can yell at a cougar all day long. You can yell at a bear all day long. It's irrelevant what you think. Also, too, the praying. I've heard of where people fall down and start praying, and who knows, that in some situations that seemed to work. And I always say, like, a bear coming at you, you can fall down and pray to Jesus Christ all you want. That bear's coming for you.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not trying to break anyone's faith or anything, but it's just bizarre to, you listen to so many people, you start to find a weird connection with experiences. It's kind of like how you and I started in the beginning. Most people would always go, I think my place is haunted. That's how the conversation always started out.
Yeah.
And the more they talk, the more they realize that it's not haunted. These things are coming up. What do you think that they are, Cindy? I mean, what's kind of your personal opinion? There's no wrong answer, but I'm just curious, after everything you've experienced, what's your gut tell you what they are?
That I knew you were going to ask me that. I really don't know. I do know that they're very intelligent. That they, gosh, what bothers me the most is that when you hear something right in front of you, it's right in front of you. I mean, my instincts about where they have been, I wouldn't have been able to get that one picture had I not had an instinct about where that thing was. It should be right in front of me, and I can't see it. I never saw anything. And that probably is the thing that freaked me out the most, was, something would happen, and within 3 seconds I could be out there and I see nothing. I mean, that's just weird to me. It's just weird. I don't know what they are. I think I really don't know. I just, what I'm thankful for? I'm thankful for that I never came in contact with one of these really ticked off ones that, want to kill people. I mean, at least mine were, playful, I guess. I guess playful.
Yeah.
And so at least mine were like that. But I don't know. I really don't know what they are. I hope that they're I hope they're not demonic. I hope they're not. I hope they're not aliens or something, because that kind of freaks me out more, knowing that I had this many experiences with something that I don't know what it is, But anyway, that's my best answer.
Yeah, that's a fair answer. That's a fair answer. And I always tell people, they set up these gifting sites, and everyone's adult, they can do whatever they want. But my advice is, we don't know what they are. Don't give them anything. Don't take anything from them, and try and engage with them as little as possible, and they'll probably go away. But even in your situation, even with your lights, they're setting up little obstacles to where if you go past this obstacle, the light will go off. I mean, that tells you right there, there's something else is going on with these things. They're not quite animal, and they're not quite human. Well, what is it then? You know what I mean? It's frustrating. It's a very frustrating topic.
Yeah, I think the realization of what, when I realized that they had set up this little barrier there, and that really made me uneasy about the whole thing. I thought, wow, that's really, that's really creepy. I don't know. It was just so many things happened, and I tried to document everything and to take notes about everything, because, I just for myself, so I could look back and go, oh yeah, I remember when that happened. And even today, when I was going back through my notes to talk to you, there were a lot of things that I wrote down. I was like, oh gosh, I completely forgot that happened. One night they got on the roof. I knew they were outside because I could smell it. The smell woke me up, and I just yelled out the door, nope, don't do it. Because I thought they were going to hit the balcony. And then they went to the other side of the house, and I think they got on the roof. When I left this side of the house and went over to the kitchen, and I could hear something on the roof, and I was like, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding. So it's been a whirlwind of weirdness. That's what you should call my episode, A Whirlwind of Weirdness.
Yeah, it is. It's bizarre, but even as weird as it is, it's more common than most people realize. I've heard this exact same situation probably 1,000 times or more, and from people who haven't come on the show. And it's the same type of behavior over and over and over again. I was telling you, most of the time it's, when wives, their husbands go off, their long haul truck drivers are gone for a week or two, then they come back. It seems like it's a nightmare the whole time the husband's gone. The minute he comes back, it seems to die off a little bit. But I've heard it time and time again. And I think you handled it way better than I would have. And I think the evidence that you collected is pretty amazing. And I don't blame you for wanting to move. I probably would move too. That'd be the first thing on my top 10 list why I'd want to move. It's different when you go to an area where they're at and you have experiences. It's a completely different situation when you walk out your back door and it's right in your face. It's at your home. And I appreciate you taking the time to come on and share it, Cindy. It's there's so much to unwrap from what you said. There's so much information. I know it'll help me. It'll help other people. And I know there's someone out there listening to the show going, that's exactly what's happening to me. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and I do. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to share this, because I've heard people that have said the same things that were happening to me, and it didn't make, I didn't feel quite so alone. Like, oh wow, somebody else experienced this same thing. So, and it was very helpful to me. And like I said, and you were very helpful with, I've never been hunting or anything like that. So I didn't know, that you didn't turn your back on predators or any of that. I didn't know any of that. So hearing that stuff on your show and hearing you talk about things like that, I learned a lot, and I learned a lot on how to handle. Never did I think in a million years I would have to handle something like this. Never. And, my husband sometimes was gone a month at a time. So it would just be a craziness for a month. And then he would get back and I'd be like, oh, you will never believe what happened, So it's been amazing and crazy, and like I said, I don't think I would have made it without you and Sasquatch Chronicles. So
I appreciate your kind words so much. Thank you again for coming on.
thank you.
And that's it for tonight, everyone. Remember, if you've had an encounter, shoot me an email. My email address is wes@sasquatchchronicles.com. If you get a chance, check out sasquatchchronicles.com. You can become a member and get additional shows. Until next time, everyone.
About limitless infinite life. She is my thunder. No wonder I'm going under the intoxicating danger I like. Save me from myself, let me drown in my black lake. Let me float away. Save me from myself, let me drown in my black lake. Beauty is a black lake, let me sail away. Beauty is a black lake, let me sail away. Darkness approaching, deep water keeps flowing. It inhales me in the stormy tide. Endless emotion, a dawn thought, a notion, an epiphany, bring the shore to life. Save me from myself,